It's time to move on to our second power hour. It's time to move on to IRRI. If you're just joining us, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. You're very welcome to this Marathon Spotlight event, which will take us on a 13-hour journey around the globe. Today, as people around the world are celebrating the International Day of Women and Girls in Science, we're taking the opportunity to celebrate our own fantastic community of women scientists who are leading the way in a wide range of research and scientific innovation, breaking barriers and finding new ways to advance the transformation of food, land and water systems in climate crisis. My name is Fiona Farrell and I lead CGIR's function that works to advance gender equity, diversity and inclusion in CGIR or GDI for short in our global workplaces. We in the GDI function just very recently celebrated our first birthday. We were launched in late January 2020 with a very clear mission to work with leadership, management and staff across CGIR to make sure that our workplaces really are truly enabling and inclusive for our over 10,000 people. Our goal is to ensure that diversity in all its dimensions is embraced and that every person in our workforce is supported to reach their full potential. For us, this is not just the right thing to do, it's the smart thing to do. We know that diversity can bring the different perspectives and the innovation that we need to deliver on our critical mission. The work of the GDI function is guided by CGIR's GDI framework and action plan. If you'd like to learn more about these important documents and our knowledge hub or our guides or our GDI matrix, which also holds us accountable for delivery on the goals that we're setting, you can learn more by going to the GDI webpage, and you're seeing the details on your screen right now. Among the many initiatives that we had the honor of supporting in 2020 was the launch of a new employee-led resource group called WIRES, or Women in Research and Science. WIRES brings together all those global communities who seek to support our incredible women scientists. We're aiming to provide a supportive, safe space to meet, to learn, to grow, and to advance. Today's event follows on closely from the official launch of WIRES on the 21st of January. And today we're recognizing the very significant contributions of women scientists by showcasing a sample of their exciting and innovative work. As we continue our 13-hour journey now, we remind you of a few housekeeping rules. You can see them on the screen. We invite you to submit your questions and your comments via the Q&A box. And please do reach out to Thomas if you have any technical difficulties. We also invite you to join WIRES. You'll see the contact details on the slide on the right-hand side. So it's now my great pleasure to welcome the speakers for our second session, the IRRI Power Hour. Hand it over to you now, Mary.
Thank you, Fiona. Hi, everyone. On behalf of IRRI, welcome to our session. My name is Mary Kanui. I'm a Gender and Youth Postdoctoral Fellow, currently based at our IRRI Nairobi, Kenya office, and I'll be facilitating this session. So our topic is on enhancing the sustainability of rice-based agri-food systems through innovation. And through this session, we hope to inspire you through the work of some of our amazing rice scientists. And through their work, we hope that you'll get to see a storyline and celebration of each woman's unique path and of perseverance and hard work that it takes to achieve success. So one of the quotes I came across while preparing for this was that if you don't see someone like you doing something you aspire to do, it may still be possible to travel that path, but if you see someone like you out there, it's much easier to visualize yourself in that position. This is a quote by Dr. Karen Vaughan. She's a soil scientist, a mom, as well as an equity advocate. So through our hour, we hope to take a deep dive into two of our amazing women scientists And through that, we can showcase also role models that are working in rice-based agri-food systems. Regarding the format for this session, I'll shortly invite IRRI's South Asia representative, that's Dr. Nafis Meir, to introduce our two speakers. And then after the presentations, we'll have a dedicated Q&A session. Meanwhile, you are also welcome to type in the questions in the chat boxes, and we'll address all of this together at the end of the session. So without any further ado, over to you, Nafis.
Thank you very much, Mary, and welcome to everybody, whichever time zone you are. I know that there's going to be people across the globe on every continent, so welcome to this IRRI session, this IRRI Power Hour. If I could begin by saying a couple of things about IRRI. As you all know, we're all part of 1CGIR, and the 1CGIR mission is to deliver science and innovation that advances transformation of food, land, and water systems in a climate crisis. And of course, IRRI contributes to that agenda very much. So we have three goals. The first is innovation leadership for the global rice sector. And secondly, to catalyze impact at scale. And finally, to transform rice-based agri-food system. And you'll be hearing from our two scientists, and I've looked at their presentations, and I can confidently say that they are at the cutting edge and a real source of pride for the work that we do in IRRI. So in terms of gender diversity and inclusion within IRRI, it's of huge importance to ourselves. We're absolutely committed to achieving GDI outputs, and following on from the establishment of the CGIAR task force on GDI, we ourselves have established a task force which will take those the action plan and tailor it to the organization in IRRI. And that is to meet very shortly. Now, we have at the moment 40% of our workforce who are women, many of whom are scientists, but we've got a little bit a ways to go, it's fair to say, because certainly in the senior levels, we are yet to achieve what we would like to do in terms of the representation of women scientists. But nonetheless, there are excellent women scientists in the organization doing some absolutely fascinating work, and you're going to hear from two of them. First, you're going to hear from Dr. Sheetal Sharma, who's a soil scientist based in India, and she'll be talking on the efficient soil management, a sound investment for environmental sustainability. And then you'll be hearing from Dr. Alice Labor, and who's based in Philippines, in Los Baños, our headquarters, and she'll be talking about some of the fascinating work that we've been doing on remote sensing and mapping rice from space and how that can be used to get that sustainability of rice-based agri-food systems. So I hope you enjoy the session, and I would like now to invite Sheetal Sharma, Dr. Sheetal Sharma, to give her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Nafis. I will be sharing my screen now, and I hope you all will be able to see it. So here it goes. Okay. I hope the screen is visible to everyone. Thank you, Nafis, for introducing me. And before I start, I would like to tell a little bit about me. I started my journey with International Rice Research Institute as a national scientist. I did my postdoc here, and now I have been working for past 5 years as an international scientist. And I have been working on various aspects of soil management. Initially, when I became a soil management, there were very few women in this particular field. It's a field where you have to be in the field. It's a study of soil which is beneath. So yes, a very few women were there, and I took that challenge. And as I will take you through the work that I'm doing, I'm hoping that many people get encouraged, especially women get encouraged, that this is something that we can do. We don't need to restrict ourselves to lab. We can go to the field and we can do some work which can make a difference at the grassroots level. My presentation is on efficient soil management, which is a sound investment for environmental sustainability. Before I go into the soil management aspect, let me talk a little bit about rice, which is a staple food for about half of the world's population. And hundreds of millions people in Asia itself depend on its livelihood. But unlike the major food crops, it grows well in submerged water. We already know it uses a lot of water for production. And it is mainly grown by smallholder farmers who are having fragmented, small, highly variable land holdings. They are mostly geographically isolated, and they are facing the growing threat of climate change. But there still remains a huge gap between the technology development in our fields, in our research fields and in our labs, and dissemination and how this technology is reaching the farmers. Talking about environment and the rice-based systems, we know rice consumes a lot of water. There is a startling figures which show that the groundwater level is depleting. 54% of India's groundwater wells are already decreasing. There is also surface pollution of water through the indiscriminate use of pesticides, fertilizers, etc. Rice stubble burning is becoming a major issue nowadays in this area, and increasing incidences or increasing toxicity of elements is also there. It is not wrong to say that exposures to contaminated air, water, and soil is killing more people than high sodium diets, obesity, alcohol, road accidents, or even malnutrition. Talking about the soil, so it's the ground beneath our feet, and I would say it is much more precious than what we have realized. We are getting various products through it, which includes antibiotics, food, even anti-cancer drugs, and the building material. It is a part of our culture, wherein we are growing our gardens. We have cemetery in the soil. All the recreation activities have a base as soil or ground. Then as a resources for carbon sequestration, water storage, and soil microbial biodiversity, but also giving other ecosystem services to the environment, which includes soil erosion protection, water quality, food flood protection, etc. When we talk about soil management, I would say that no one size fits all. So you have to look at various aspects before planning anything, whether we have to go for field scale, landscape scale, what type of soil, what management will go with what type of soil, what are the livelihoods which are dependent on that particular soil, and what are the policies around in place which can help you execute the new technologies, innovations, can those be scaled, and then the various interactions among all these aspects. Historically, management of soil, particularly fertilizer management, has been through transfer of information from the forefathers or for transfer of information from farmer to farmer. However, in the current scenario, if we look at, the climate has changed, the management has changed. We have now new varieties which are highly responsive. We have hybrids, new fertilizer sources are available. There are changing management practices, for example, change in crop establishment. We are now trying to use less water, use of direct seeded rice. However, natural resources are degrading. And the information which was there initially probably is not reliable now, and it does not have a scientific base, and it's becoming redundant in the current scenario. If we really want to have a good soil health management strategy for healthy environment, the key is to increase soil carbon and for precision management of the soil. With the increase in soil organic carbon, we aim to increase the rooting, decrease erosion, build aggregates, available water holding capacity is increased, and all the soil functions in general are improved. So we create a topsoil which is rich in organic matter, which is rich in nutrients, which will require less energy and tillage efforts, and thus the field conditions will become more resilient and consistent over the time, which will translate into improved crop yields, lower cost, lower pollution, and a better environment. Uh, Looking at this, I have been planning my research around these aspects so that we have a holistic aspect, holistic approach to soil management in the rice-based systems. We need to develop better fertilizer strategies for our systems, both for the transplanted rice, which exists now, but also for the direct seeded rice, which probably will be the future. So we are working currently on developing better real-time nitrogen management. Leaf color chart has been operational. It is being used by the farmers, but we are now working on developing a digital leaf color chart, which will be probably more scalable and will be helpful to the farmers in the current situation. We're also working on regenerative farming trials. As we said, that the key is to improve the soil carbon. So we are trying various approaches to increase productivity, income diversification through diversified cropping systems. So how do we introduce the third crop in the rice system, rice systems? How we introduce a different crop in the system, or how we reduce the cropping um, time of rice, or introduction of short duration rice variety to improve diversification and for ecological restoration. In addition to that, in this area, when we talk about Asia, South Asia particularly, natural farming systems are becoming popular. However, we still lack evidence around those. And one of my aim is to critically evaluate these systems for climate resilience, resource efficiency, and environment sustainability. We are looking at the productivity, but along with that, we are also looking at it in relation to soil health and greenhouse gas emissions, so that we can go for mitigation and adaptation to climate change. This is not restricted to field. In CGIR, we work a lot with the farmers, and one of the work that we are doing currently is the real-time nitrogen management through digital tools with the farmers. We've also set up a natural fertilizer unit at our ISARC Vanarasi Center, wherein the idea to set up this center was so that we can standardize and evaluate the organic inputs. We have to be cost effective in the work that we are doing. We have to assure the quality. So instead of buying from outside, we prepare our own organic inputs, which can be then evaluated. And also the final aim is then to reduce the environmental footprints. This is the kind of work that we are doing for research. However, a lot of work has been gone into precision nutrient management, precision soil management. We have been working on it for past almost 20 years. However, the change has not been incremental. I will just quote Ross, who said that the greatest impediment to solving this problem is not the lack of innovation, rather it is our inability to scale up the solutions that we know work. we as soil scientists, we know that there are many technologies that work, but we don't know if they can be sustainably scaled. So the innovation needs to be linked to scaling pathways and the end users. One of the tools which IRRI has developed is a rice crop manager, which is based on the principles of site-specific nutrient management. It is an ICT-based decision tool which helps to translate this complex science of site-specific nutrient management into simple messages, and which can be then shared with the farmer using an SMS or a printed guidelines. It has been officially endorsed and released in Bangladesh, India, Indonesia, and the Philippines. It provides irrigated and rain-fed low farmers with site-specific nutrient and crop management recommendation, which is customized for that farmer's field. And we use the farmer's answer to generate this recommendation. How it works is that we interview the farmer using the web browser or an app. This information is then sent to a cloud-based server, which houses the nutrient management algorithms and the decision-making decision calculator, along with the various local databases. And using this, it automatically generates a recommendation which can be then sent to the farmers or shared with the farmers through various portals and pathways. Being a cloud-based server, it also has a flexibility of interacting with various other data sources like the climate data, remote sensing data, and the geospatial data. One of the example is like when we talk about developing a real-time nitrogen management, we can use the mapping, the GIS and remote sense to map the area to generate a more real-time yield target and complement it with the models that we have, for example, the IRRI model. Mapping and GIS work, this will be talked about by my colleague Alice later after this presentation. So I think she will throw more light about it. But using this information, we can generate a better yield target, which will certainly help in developing a more site-specific nutrient management recommendation. And we can also use this information for in-season corrections, especially for modification of fertilizer amount based on adjusted yield target, adjusting the timing, and adjusting the fertilizer and amount, especially if there are abiotic stresses like flood and drought, which are becoming more common in the current scenario. So if we talk about precision farming and rice-based systems for resilience to climate change, we are looking at research, we are looking at scaling, and we are looking at capacity development. All three things have to interact with each other in order to have an impact. And we have to work from the field scale to the watershed scale and then to the regional scales together for obtaining the key outputs for field-specific management, sustaining the soil health, doubling farmers' income, but also reducing the environmental impact of the fertilizer. As I was saying that no research is useful until it reaches the farmers. So we are working with various governments on the dissemination of rice crop manager. We start with sensitization, training, organizing field crop days, and along with the various partnerships that we have developed locally, just in a span of 2 years, we have been able to generate around 230,000 recommendations. About 50,000 of them have been sent through voice message. We have trained staff from Department of Agriculture, NGO, private individuals on using the tool and giving the information to the farmers. We organize meetings, agriculture fairs, around 2,500 demonstrations to show the farmers in field the benefit of the new innovation that is there. And we have received an additional yield of around 0.5 ton per hectare with the saving of fertilizer, which translates into additional income of around 200 USD per hectare per season. The key lessons learned from my work include that, if you have to be successful in anything that you do, from doing strategic research or taking it to the farmers, you need to have the right partners. You have to make the right decision on with whom to engage. Include people who are passionate about the work, who value your work and who value the work that you are doing, who are passionate to take your work to the end users. Governance and resources. So dissemination of technology and capacity building should be incorporated in whatever we do. And the extension workers should come together with the researchers to take not only the technologies developed, but also to give the feedback on what need to be developed or what will be more suitable in the current scenario for the farmers. And then research and development, it's an unending process. So what we do today for today's situation may become redundant in the future. So it has to be a continuous process of research and a continuous cycle that goes on between the researchers, the extension workers, and the end users, in case we want to sustain and be able to adapt and mitigate the effect of climate change that we are facing, along with ensuring that we are able to have secure food in our plates for the growing population. Talking about my work on soil health, soil health is an established through interactions of interdependent various properties of the soil. And if we are able to increase soil organic matter, it can improve the overall soil health. It can also help in decreasing air, water, and soil pollutions. The intervention should also consider the lens of soil health to make the environment sustainability. So whatever work we are doing, whether it is agronomic, whether it is socio-economic, we should consider it from the lens of soil health. The cause and effect of environmental pollution can be managed only through multidimensional, multidisciplinary, and holistic approaches. So being more inclusive in our teams, I think that's the key to success. We have to rethink and replan our strategy, and that has to be done continuously. I will end my presentation here with these thoughts, and will leave you with these thoughts, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have with this. Over to you, Mary.
Thank you very much, Sheetal. Quite an insightful presentation, and very important to see that the ground beneath our feet is more precious than we actually know and realize. And another thing that I quite liked is when you were saying it's not that a lack of innovation, but rather they need to scale up the solutions that we already know can work. And I quite liked, as we gel into Alice's presentation, the way that you fostered collaborations, and especially in the real-time management. That's quite the use of ICTs. And at this point, I'll welcome Alice. And just as a reminder, please continue typing in your questions and comments as we go along. We'll address these at the end of the session. Over to you, Alice. Welcome, and thank you, Sheetal.
Can you see my screen in presentation mode?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon from the Philippines. I'll talk about our work at IRRI in partnership with government institutions and other organizations to map and characterize rice areas using satellite imagery. It was mentioned already earlier that rice is a very important crop and will continue to be so in the coming decades. Policymakers, researchers, and others need information on where rice is grown, when it is planted, and how much rice is produced. These are essential for evidence-based decision-making on food security and for better targeting of technologies and programs to enhance productivity and welfare of the billions of people who depend on rice. For about a decade now, we have been working with partners leveraging technologies like remote sensing, crop modeling, and web platforms to generate timely, accurate, and location-specific information on rice. Two simultaneous projects in Asia with the same technologies but slightly different goals related to food security are the remote sensing-based information and insurance for crops in emerging economies, which aims to develop state or national scale remote sensing-based insurance for rice, and the Philippine Rice Information System, or PRISM, to develop a nationwide rice crop information system for the Philippines. I will focus my presentation on PRISM, as this is where I have been heavily involved from project inception and development to its institutionalization in the government. So in PRISM, rice area is mapped using Sentinel-1 synthetic aperture radar and a rule-based rice detection algorithm. Aside from rice area, maps of planting dates, as well as assessment of damages after a flood or drought event are also conducted using remote sensing. Mid-semester forecast and end-of-semester yields are estimated using the crop growth simulation model IRRI with input using SAR, weather, soil, crop, and management practices as input. Okay. To illustrate how we map rice areas using, say, spaceborne SAR, take a look at this satellite imagery taken over an area in southern Philippines on October 18. The same area looks like this on November 20, and the dark area coincides with the agronomic flooding during land preparation. Then this is how the SAR image looks like on December 1 and on December 12. The difference across time allows us to accurately map rice areas as well as detect planting dates. In the next slides, I will be presenting some examples of maps generated by PRISM. The map on your right is the first nationwide high-resolution map of rice in the Philippines. And this refers to the 2015 semester 2 cropping, or the wet season. You can see there some points, so those are ground observations. And based on over 1,000 ground observations, the accuracy of the maps produced from 2015 up to 2020 range from 85 to 93%. The data on rice area have been provided to the DA monthly since 2018. And even during the lockdown, the DA continued to receive monthly data generated by the PRISM team. Also, because this is high resolution, the information is available at a finer scale compared to official statistics, which is only available at provincial level. So PRISM is able to provide timely, accurate, and location-specific information on rice. Aside from providing information on where rice is grown, this map shows when rice is planted. So the different colors on the map refer to different months from May to September when rice is grown. This information will show if a season is delayed and when the bulk of harvest is expected. And this is important to know ahead of time if there will be potential shortfalls in rice supply, and this has implications on import decisions. Also, the rice calendar is an important input to a lot of models like crop growth simulation, pests and diseases, and also in climate change studies. So this map shows rice yields in a major rice producing province in the country. Most of the rice areas are shown in green, meaning yields are at least 4 tons per hectare, which is the national average. This can be used to identify low-yielding areas, which can be targeted for productivity-enhancing technologies and programs. In the event of a flood or drought, assessments are conducted to map rice areas affected. So from 2014 to 2019, damage assessments was conducted for a total of 32 flood events. From the combined analysis, we found that nearly 1 million hectares of rice is flooded at least once in 6 years, and 35,000 at least 6 times in as much years. Majority of this is in the rice bowl of the country. The map on your right shows the flood occurrence. So the yellow and orange areas are the frequently flooded rice areas and should be assessed more closely. These are areas where flood-tolerant rice varieties developed by our breeders are needed the most. This map can also be used to guide distribution of seeds and provision of assistance to farmers affected. Damage assessments are useful to relief organizations and also in crop insurance. The R&D phase of PRISM ended in 2018, and since then, PRISM has been fully operated by the Philippine Rice Research Institute, or PhilRice, one of the partners and co-developer of PRISM. Aside from developing and testing the methods for mapping rice, we also worked towards building capacity and supported the development of the sustainability plan and transition of PRISM from research to operation. So this is an achievement that we are particularly proud of. I think all of the scientists would like the development, the tools that they have developed to be actually used and to be institutionalized and continue to be used and implemented up to now. It is an achievement that we are particularly proud of. And so we are working continuously together with PhilRice to explore more uses of the data. Among the things we're currently looking at is the impact of shocks, such as the lockdown implemented in the whole island of Luzon as a result of COVID, and evaluation of policies, such as the rice tariffication law implemented in 2019. Building on PRISM, we have another research, the Pest Risk Identification and Management Project, or PRIME, which is also funded by the Philippine Department of Agriculture. In PRISM, we develop methods for mapping and monitoring rice areas and assessment of damages due to flood and drought. In PRIME, we are looking at biotic stress in rice and complements what is already in PRISM. Here we have developed already a standard protocol for pest surveillance and monitoring, and our regional partners, armed with a smartphone, are monitoring over 2,000 fields throughout the country and sending pest observations to our centralized database monthly. Based on surveillance data, we are providing targeted management recommendations to avoid losses due to pests and diseases. Here we are also developing risk models for 5 major rice pests and diseases. These are bacterial blight, brown plant hopper, blast, tungro, and its vector, the green leaf hopper, and rodents. So in PRISM, we develop methods to map rice areas. Here, we are further characterizing rice areas, concentrating on characteristics or practices that affect occurrence of pests and diseases. And we're still using remote sensing for this. So we are, as part of the project, we are developing methods for mapping rice ecosystems, so differentiating the irrigated from the rain-fed areas, and also crop establishment method, looking at transplanted versus direct seeded. We're also looking at mapping planting synchrony and also fallow duration. The series of photos below show how a certain rice field looks like to us, no? And the graph above shows how the satellite sees this rice field. And this is what we call its signature. So in this case, this is the signature of an irrigated transplanted rice field. So we're looking at practices or different locations. So we are putting together georeferenced pest surveillance data and additional field work to look for the window during the growing season that will allow for maximum differentiation between crop management practices using remotely sensed data. So this is an ongoing research, and what we are doing now is exploring machine learning algorithms and other methods for mapping pest risk factors. These will be incorporated, once validated, this will be incorporated to pest models. And just like in PRISM, we're concentrating on capacity building the capacity of partners, and also developing a sustainability plan to transition PRIME to the Bureau of Plant Industry, which is the agency that is mandated to do pest surveillance and forecasting. So I would like to acknowledge the men and women behind PRISM and PRIME. This team consists of GIS and remote sensing specialists, pest and disease experts, crop and pest modelers, IT professionals, communication specialists, and partners from the DA Central and regional field offices. So I shared with you our research using remote sensing to map and characterize rice areas. and our experience in translating our research into an operational system that can support the activities of the Philippine Department of Agriculture and help policymakers make informed and science-based decisions on food security. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Alice. Wonderful presentation. And among the things I picked up was I quite liked the signature of rice fields. And for me, it shows me, and I think also for the rest of our audience, that GIS, the application of GIS, it's only limited by the imagination of those who use it. So it can bring out so much more, especially the way from the rice fields, the picturesque aspect, and knowing where things are and why, the way you mentioned, it's quite essential for decision making. Thank you for that. And also one other thing that I quite liked was that GIS, it goes beyond the geography, the maps and the data to actually collection of data that's representing the lives of people, their experiences and their significance. So thank you once more. At this juncture, we'll now go to the Q&A session. So I'll read them as they come. Mostly it's actually, there's some comments, really congratulating you on the work. So I'll start from the bottom going up. So from Nerissa Toreta, he says, thank you, Dr. Labote, for sharing the PRISM and PRIME works that you have done. It would truly benefit our rice farmers and keep up the great work. There's a question from Franchette Dolfo asking, are there any changes in the data shown in PRISM prior and after rice tariffication law? Honored to be, and then they mentioned that they're honored to be here from Federation of Agriculture Cooperatives in Cameroon. So, and it's an interesting topic, and well done, Dr. Alice. So I'll read them all, both for you and Shital, and then you can answer them in one go. So there were also earlier feedback and also congratulatory messages for Dr. Shital as well. So one from Pradit Day, so saying, thank you, Dr. Shital, for your profound insight. Indeed, scaling up solutions is the key to success. And also from Birhanu, mentioning it was a very good talk on soil. Thank you, our participants. So for now, the question for Alice. May I read it again, or how have you got that, Alice?
Yes, I have it. Thank you, Mary.
All right.
So we have not really assessed it yet because it's still early. The rice tariffication law was implemented in 2019. And so as part of the law, as probably you know, there are a rice competitiveness enhancement fund that is being used to help farmers. So we plan, actually, we have a proposal to do this, to do a midterm evaluation. So when already, then I think that would be the time when it would be good to make an assessment of the impact of the rice tariffication law. And this can be seen in PRISM in terms of, will the areas that are planted to rice continue to be planted to rice, and where? No? So also looking at where are the winners and losers, or are there farmers converting from rice to other crops in non-productive, those that are not as productive or not as competitive. So we would like to see this. I think that is something that we look forward to working with PhilRice on.
Thank you very much. Please keep the questions and the comments coming in. Meanwhile, as you wait for more questions, Shital, I have a question for you. So as you ventured into ICTs for soil nutrient management, what has stood out in your journey as you've diversified? For example, and more specifically, how have you navigated the laws and the uncertainty in veering into a rather new field, in a way, as opposed to just remaining in soil, so to speak? And also as you ventured into collaborating more with Alice, how has the journey been?
Okay, very good question, Mary. And what I would like to say is that I'm not an expert in IT. I'm not an expert in ICT. So the key for success and the journey to be successful is the partnership. So we have another team led by Caroline, which is on ICT, which provides us all the support that we need for making this tool a success. We ensure that the science that is behind it is up to date, and we get the feedback from the farmers. We provide this input from our side, while our ICT helps us in ensuring that the tool is usable, it is acceptable, and it is in demand. So I think the journey has been not that I am doing ICT myself, but in the effective partnerships that we have. Additionally, the partnership with the local governments, the local institutions who help you understand the needs and the pathways that can be followed to take this to the farmers. Just an example of our involvement with the common service centers, which have been set up by the governments. They show us a promise that these tools can be taken to the farmer in more effective way.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shital. There's one more question from Naomi Chege. She asks, when there's no incremental impact on soil research, what keeps you going on with the soil research work?
Well, I am afraid of the world we are entering. I'm afraid of the threats that we see due to climate change. And I am afraid that if we continue business as usual, things will be really harsh in the future. My motivation is that as the things are changing, we as a scientist keep on working on new things so that the farmers get that resilience in future for production, and we are still able to feed the growing population. It's not going to stop. The population growth is not going to stop, and we will still need more food on the plates. How we produce that food and how soil research is really contributing is something that keeps on motivating me to do it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for feedback. There's more very encouraging comments from also one of the other participants, Oli Fisayo Kolade, saying great presentations from Dr. Shital and Alice. So the audience is really appreciating the work that you do. Another question, keep the questions and comments coming in. I'll ask Alice a question for now. So in the early days of GIS, I remember there was a quote by what people would call the father of GIS that I came across, Roger Timlinson, saying the early days of GIS were very lonely. No one knew what it meant. And probably also this might be the way forward with as we venture into new spaces and with the innovation. It sometimes, I don't know, from your experience, how has it been? Is it a lonely journey? And how do you navigate, especially as you advance in innovation? And also, how do you balance that with raising visibility for your team?
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Mary, for the question. I remember the first map we produced, no, for I think it was for prison, and the people from the Department of Agriculture said, okay, these are nice maps, but we just need tables, so just give us tables. And so we try to explain how to read the maps, because I think that's also the problem, no? It's not enough that you provide them, okay, we provide them the tables, that's what they need, but in addition, we also provide the maps, and this is how you can read the map, and these are the additional information that you can get out of it. And so that is also part of what we do in PRISM, is to train them how to use the data and how to get information out of it. We did some basic and intermediate GIS training for the regional field offices so that they know how to use the data in combination with other data. And as I mentioned, like the yield, they really like that. So identify in their region where are the low yielding areas that they should concentrate on if they want to improve productivity of farmers in their area of coverage. And so what is important is to make the tool understandable and to emphasize its use. I think that's really important, because often we say, okay, this is important and this is a cool tool, but then you have to be able to relate it to your target users. How are they going to be able to use the tools, and how can the tool be useful for them? So we've had a lot of discussions actually before we transitioned to try to adapt it to the way to how they need it. For example, initially for mapping rice, we only produced mid-season and end of season estimates. And then the DA said, okay, but we want monthly data. And so that's how we revised to be able to produce the monthly data and to give them every 10th of the month so that it coincides with their reporting period. So a lot of these enhancements or changes need to be made to adapt the tool so that they can become even more useful to the target audience or the target users.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alice. More comments and questions coming in. I'll start with the comments and then go to the question. So from Nishanka Jayasiri, they say, interesting presentations. Thanks to both speakers. I like the concept of scaling up solutions. And then from Ajay Mishra, congratulations, Dr. Shital. It's really wonderful to work with you in the team and see the transformation in lives of farmers through precise nutrient management. And then there's a question for both of you, actually, from Franchette Dulfo. They say, my question is for the two speakers. How do you think women inclusivity in both your research works and career in general has helped your work move forward? And how do you think we can encourage more women to engage more in research and science, particularly in rice research? So the first question is, how do you think women inclusivity in both your research works and career in general has helped your work move forward? And then number two, how do you think we can encourage even more women to engage more in research and science, particularly in rice research? Over to you, Alice and Shital.
Alice, you can go first.
Okay, Shital, thanks. Okay, let me take the how can we encourage more women to engage more in research first. Actually, for me, I was helped a lot through mentoring. You know? I've been very lucky that I have very good supervisors who are technically very good and also very supportive. And for us, we need opportunities. And so to be given an opportunity, I think is important. And we can encourage more women to engage in research and science by encouraging them and providing them opportunities to do so. So in terms of inclusivity in research and in career, I have been lucky to get scholarships that are designed to have equal opportunities for men and women. And I think that started me in the career in research and in science. And as I said, also at IRRI, they have been very supportive and in mentoring, especially new staff, and providing needed opportunities.
Thank you, Alice. I'll pick from there. Like, if I'm talking here today at this level, I think it has been that I have moved up through my struggles and now reached here. This would have not been possible again if I didn't have support. If we include more women in our team, we are able to achieve two objectives. One is that if they are coming at a lower level, they get encouraged by looking at us, how we have grown from where we were and from where we are. And we know that what environment they will need to grow. We have gone through those struggles. So, we can mentor them, we can help them through. The second objective is that if we see women around us at higher posts, that encourages us. So we look at women who are at leadership places and we see that, yes, that is achievable. I would say that if we didn't have enabling environments at IRRI, the support that we get at IRRI through mentorship, through excellent supervisors who support you, through the leadership team who give you opportunity and a platform to work, and the flexibility of working with the teams. I don't think that you need to have a working relationship with everyone. You can't have that. But there are people who will always be there for you, who will support you, and who will encourage you not only technically, but also psychologically. And I think that is something that we have been lucky to have in IRRI. And I know when I joined IRRI, Fiona was HR manager at that time. And the support we get from our HR through the trainings that they give us. I was given an opportunity to attend women leadership training, to know how different women are moving in their careers, to see their journeys, to be more assertive, learning these few tips. I think these helps a lot. So yes, the support and the enabling environment, and seeing more women around you encourage you at all levels.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shital and Alice, and also Nafis. We appreciate it. It's been a wonderful session. And as you're almost running out of time, I'll provide some brief closing remarks as we wrap up our session. So for our audience, we hope we've inspired you through the journey of both Dr. Alice and Dr. Shital to make a positive contribution and map your own unique path, as we've seen from our fantastic women scientists, so that you're able to make a positive contribution in your spheres of influence. So in summary, I'll just do a one-liner on the key take-home messages from the two wonderful presentations. So what I've learned, and I'm sure the rest of our audience also has learned, is that soil is the foundation of all ecosystem functioning, and all life depends upon the soil. That's the starting point. And also, and moving forward also with Alice's presentation, that how we see GIS is just beyond the maps and the data and the geography. GIS can open up a way to help us see the world through a different lens, and in that way, enable us to solve problems around the world. They're doing it from the rice agri-food systems perspective, and the rest of our audience also, I hope we've inspired you to also do it in your own spheres of influence. And beyond this, I believe we've covered most of the questions. I'll quickly read, thankfully we still have 2 more minutes. I'll quickly read through the 3 that have just come in, and then from there we'll also offer an opportunity to extend the discussion beyond the session, as we need to make room for the next center. So Maderos mentions, okay, fine, I think that has already been addressed. Most of them actually are comments, just congratulating our speakers, and thank you for that. So beyond this, if there are any other questions that come up, we are happy to extend the discussion beyond the session. And on behalf of the presenters, I'm happy to share the email contacts on the chat box, and then I'll make the connection to the rest of the speakers. So as we conclude, we are very grateful to our audience for the very active and lively participation. Thank you for the comments, thank you for the questions, and for the appreciation and celebrating our scientists. And also a heartfelt thanks to our panelist members, Dr. Shital, Dr. Alice, Dr. Nafis, thank you very much. And we value and celebrate you, and keep up the great work. So this marks the end of our session. And over to you, Fiona.
Thanks so much, Mary. Thank you to you. Thank you to Shital. Thank you to Alice and Nafis for a really enjoyable and enlightening session. I only wish we had more time with you, because I do get the feeling that of the couple of hundred people that we have online, there were a lot more questions that we just didn't get a chance to get round to. We do appreciate your commitment, and thanks very much for the time that you've taken to be with us today. Those of you who haven't had the chance to get your questions answered, please don't worry. As Mary has said, we hope that this session sparks many further interesting discussions, and please do feel free to reach out to our IRRI speakers to continue the conversations after today's event. Now, speaking of continuing conversations, it's time to move on to IMI.